So welcome back. So we just talked about kind of different ways of segmenting markets based on customer and product differentiation. But let's talk about some different segmentation axes. And I mentioned it briefly a little bit, but we call this GAT-C. And these are also different ways of understanding your competition. Remember I talked about competition occurs at the local level? Again, we don't necessarily mean geographically or spatially local, but we mean locally in terms of the segmentation axis. So you've got geography, applications, technology, and clients. So again, geography, when you look at who your local competitor or who your local competition might be, you might look at it within a specific geographic region. So you could talk about like city or county level, like local, or even a neighborhood possibly, like within a 5-mile radius. You could talk about national and international level competition as well. Okay? You could also talk about applications. Okay? How is the product or service designed to be used? Right? So you might look at, is it an industrial application or a commercial application or a residential application? Okay? You could look at the clients. You could look at the clients. Who are your specific customers? Would it be, I don't know, men under the age of 40, or would it be teenagers, or single mothers, or whoever you choose as your clients? And then you could also talk about technology. And that could be technology that is used in the production of your good or service, or the technological features of that specific good or service. Okay? Either way. So let me give a couple of examples here. Snafu there. So a couple of examples. Let's say we're going to talk about a really hot industry, like metal cans. Okay? Pretty hot industry, right? Well, you could say, first of all, looking at it from a geographical perspective, you could say, well, do I want to be an international can distributor, or do I want to only distribute to LA County, or the state of California, North America, Europe, Africa, etc.? Okay? So that'd be one way to segment. I want to be the best metal can manufacturer in all of Belgium, okay, by geography. But then you can also look at what would be the applications of that metal can, right? Do you want the metal can to be used for like dog food, soft drinks, beer, chemicals, fruit juice, other flavored drinks, preserved food? How do you actually want to use the can? Okay. And then you can talk about kind of the technology involved in the can, right? I mean, is it going to be kind of your regular steel 3-piece, steel 2-piece can, maybe an aluminum 2- or 3-piece can, or a composite plastic 2- or 3-piece? Or maybe it's something, just a general use can, or even an aerosol can. Okay. So what are the technology pieces? Then you can talk about who would be your clients. Again, are you looking to give your stuff to manufacturers, or maybe it's for home canning purposes? So again, who would actually buy the cans? And you can define who your competition is, your biggest competitive threat among any one of these segmentation axes, but typically you would define your competition as some combination of all four. So for example, I could say, I want to be the best can manufacturer in Belgium. I'm going to specialize my canning in food and fruit juice, and we're going to use composite 2-piece cans, and we will distribute predominantly to residential customers who are making self-canning products at home. Okay, for example. You can even say, you know what, I want to be Los Angeles' best soft drink can manufacturer and I'm going to make both 2- and 3-piece aluminum cans that will be distributed to Pepsi and Coke, the companies, for example. So this is how you can define your market in a very narrow sort of way. But and you may be thinking, well, why do we even need to segment, right? Again, a big part of strategy is about making choices. Okay? So if you don't make the choice of I want to be, LA's best can manufacturer, etc., you wind up boiling the ocean. You wind up doing too much, spreading yourself too thin. Okay? Your ability to generate a competitive advantage is devoting your resources to a single segment. And when you understand what single segment in which you want to compete, you can focus your attention on the competitors already in that segment. It's very difficult for a company to be the best at everything all the time. Okay? So strategy is about making choices and trade-offs. So this helps you kind of structure which trade-offs and which choices you're going to make. Of course, maybe we'll talk about something a little bit more fun. How about wine? Right? So you could do it by geography, right? I want to specialize in Napa Valley wines, that's a region, or French wines, or Spanish wines, or wines produced in LA County. Okay? And I want to, you could also do geography again here, I want to distribute it predominantly to the West Coast market. Okay? When you say I want to distribute predominantly to the West Coast market, that means you're not having to compete against all those big European producers, right? At least not to the same extent. When you want to talk about applications, right? You could say, I'm going to make, I don't know, big jug wine, right? That's the cheap wine like they used to have at Trader Joe's. Big jug wine that's used for large catering events. Or I want to have kind of a starter wine. I want the customers to taste my wine to kind of get used to drinking wine in general. Or I want to have the real fancy wine that's used only at Michelin-starred events. Okay? You could look at technology, right? Do you want to make your wine by hand, using extremely traditional methods, or do you want to have a more industrialized process? You could look at the clients. I want to sell my wine to people under the age of 30 or people over 60, etc. But there's other ways you can do it by kind of mixing and matching, right? You could do it by price and quality level. That could be another way to segment, like cheap wine versus expensive wine. That almost is kind of like applications, right? You could do in terms of clients, okay? Who do I want to choose as my distribution channels for my wine, right? Specialty stores, retail chains, catering, etc. And then you could also say in terms of somewhere between applications and technology by product category, right? I want white wine, I want red wine, rosé wine, sparkling, still wine, etc. So there's different ways of kind of mixing and matching these to come up with your ideal segment, but it all kind of boils down to one of these factors in GATT-C. Of course, I could give you one more example. Think about pharmaceuticals, right? They could say, for example, I want to be an international retailer of pharmaceutical drugs, or I could have different markets. A very large pharmaceutical company may have certain products distributed in Germany, certain in France, certain in the US, etc. Of course, when you talk about applications, right, you could talk about I want the drugs to be made for biopharmaceuticals, conventional pharmaceuticals, vaccines, over-the-counter medications. Right? You could talk about also for who would be the clients. You could say cancer patients, people with diabetes, high cholesterol, and again, the kind of technology would be like what kind of research and development would be going into the product itself. So on our next module, our next video, pardon me, we're going to talk about key success factors, what they are, and how we derive them. Looking forward to seeing you then.